3.
Welcome to Soulfire Wisdom with Kate Olson. As an evolving spirit and change adventure navigator, it is Kate's mission to empower and guide you on your path and inspire your truest passions. She will encourage you to share your gifts, speak your truth, and ignite your inner wisdom and purpose. She hopes to do so with a little humor and grace and her own soulfire passion. Kate talks with amazing guests who have embraced the pursuit and are fanning the flames of their own passion, purpose, and soulfire wisdom. Now here's your host, Kate.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Soulfire Wisdom and Totally Awesome, Try Something New and Talk About It Tuesday. So what I tried this week was I tried a Pilates class. Has anyone ever done Pilates? It's very, I think it's a very effective, good exercise protocol. It reminds me of the old-fashioned exercises we used to do really when I was a kid, but without the apparatus. And so I think it sort of to me was a back to basics kind of thing that, you know, stretches out and utilizes all of your different muscle groups. And the only difference that I saw from, you know, what I did as a kid was, you know, a lot of years, so that had, I felt really sore after doing that class. And when I was a kid, I remember doing contests on the, you know, we had like the national fitness tests back then. And I remember doing contests with my friends, you know, to try to exceed what we were required to do for the tests. And I have to say, I didn't feel that way about it anymore. But I think that it would be a good way to get yourself back into fitness if you've been, you know, not doing regular type exercises for a long time. So all is good with Pilates. So we have a great show planned for today. My guest is Ted Winslow, and Ted is a producer and musician with over 25 years in the music industry. And he also has gotten into the healing field using his music and sound frequencies. So I'm going to introduce Ted because some of his technologies are just a little complicated, and so I'm going to let him tell us a little bit more about himself and about his music. So hi Ted, how are you?
Hi Kate, thank you so much for having me on today. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I see all your guitars there in the background.
part of my collection, what my son doesn't walk out of here with and take home with him.
So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what brought you to your current path?
Absolutely. So I always was intrigued with music and started out playing on guitar, and it went to playing bass guitar when I was probably about high school and junior high-ish. And at that point had decided that I'm going to probably expand myself and go into a career with it, and go to college to learn more with it, and started learning more about composition with it. And as I was going through college, I started picking up playing a lot of other instruments as well. I had become what's called a studio musician. So people were hiring me to come in and play on their songs, and maybe a drummer was showing up late, so I started learning the drums. Learned keyboards, guitar, I sang, and so kind of became like the Swiss Army knife of the studio musicians, with my main instrument kind of being bass guitar. And it dawned on me as I was sitting back there watching the producers and recording engineers on the other side of the glass, what wanted to know what was going on with that. So I had changed my degree to technical and audio engineering to learn that aspect of it, and completely fell in love with production, which worked pretty well, because as I started accumulating guitars, synthesizers, drum kits, and all of that, it was easy to start putting down my ideas. So I meet my wife, and she was telling me about sound healing music, and I'd kind of studied some about it with frequencies um, through my education, and she was playing to me what she had told me was sound healing music, and I'm like, that doesn't sound like sound healing music at all. So she kind of looks at me, she says, okay, big shot, if you let's see what you can do, right? So I went in and kind of figured I'm going to change this tunings with the hertz, the frequencies, and started my compositions that way, and realized what they were doing, incorporated binaural beats through the years with all of it, and it launched me on a whole new genre, a whole new platform. And today I'm sitting here with millions of streams and 20 plus albums on the market, and it's just kind of going strong. So it's been an interesting ride nonetheless, because we talk technology. I started back in the days with analog tape, and now it's like you could sit here with a computer and do it virtually anywhere.
Yes. So was it just research into the field, or how did you discover what types of frequencies are good for healing?
It kind of started with everything I realized was being played at a frequency that's called 440 hertz, or what's known as standard tuning. And for those who don't know, real quickly, that would be like the standard universal tuning that everybody uses from over into Europe to down into Australia, that if I was to walk in with my guitar, I would tune up with the orchestra at this frequency of 440 hertz. And thinking earlier, knowing that there were many different tunings that had come before we got to that point, such as classical and Baroque eras, with the pianos and the orchestras that they were doing, Bach, Haydn, Vivaldi. I kind of wanted to figure out what had changed and why. And through learning that, 440 is actually one of the most dissonant frequencies that we can tune to. So I started using a bunch of different tunings that were going to become more applicable. So let me back up here for a quick second. 440 is going to be the key of A above middle C. So really that's one tuning and should be in that key signature. And it's measured in hertz, which is a measurement of, you could say it's electrical frequency as well. It applies to music. And the bodies of electrical and multiple frequencies make up and create this. It's the vibrational frequency within mind that will determine the vibration which the body will function. So it's a measure of electricity distinguished by this unit called hertz. And as I started looking more into them, 528 would be the key of C. So that's going to be applicable to that, which would be its true home key signature in the key of C. 432 is going to be in the key of A. So that's where it's taken me on that aspect with it. And then realizing how it was changing our makeup, say like brainwave entrainment, I started incorporating binaural beats and bringing in theta waves, bringing in alpha waves. I created a technology I'm kind of a techie when it comes to music. It's like when I was learning how to program synthesizers, I started working more with computers and algorithms and putting it together. And that's how I created SOUNDSYNCTECH, was through the variety of these tunings, bringing in theta into the proper key signature. Say if that was the 528, then the key of C. Now I've probably thoroughly lost everybody, but that in a nutshell is kind of how I went about with that.
Yeah, I can see how it really intersects with the fields of neuroscience and energy psychology. So, yeah, I just, I know that music does have that effect on people, on your body. Like I listen to music every morning because that just sets the tone for my day. Or
Right.
if I'm upset, I want to listen to music, calms me down. But understanding what it's really doing, that's the science of it, really, or the technology. You can.
Right. And we all have our own soul signature, our own kind of like key signature, so to speak. And it kind of dawned on me that I've been waking up in the morning and if my alarm was going off to the radio, that would have been at 440 hertz. I go to work that day and I get in the elevator, it's going to be 440 hertz. I turn on the TV at my lunch break, it's 440 hertz. I come home at night, 440 hertz. And I'm like, well, this has just been like, it's like Groundhog's Day. It's repeating ourselves. It's being in that same frequency over and over and over. And I wasn't sure where it was going to go. And so by experimenting with it, it took off and people would start to listen to it. People started playing it with their plants and their plants started to thrive. There was a mother that sent us a testimonial that her baby wasn't taken to the teat and they were trying everything to get this baby to latch. And they started playing one of my albums and the baby calmed down, quit crying, and took to it. Um,
Mhm.
there's been athletes. We talked with there was a young lady who wanted to be a doctor. Um, and so I gave her gamma, and I can explain a little bit about gamma a little bit later, but gamma is going to be everything greater than 40 hertz. And it's basically the highest as far as the frequency are. And interestingly enough, it's the smallest in amplitude, but it's got a lot of associations with higher learning. And she wanted to be a doctor. And as she started listening to the gamma frequencies, she started getting straight A's. And then the next semester, they started putting her in honor classes. And the next semester, they put her in AP classes. So I'm a firm believer where we can go and what we can do with these frequencies. And every day there's something new that's coming out about how they're helping people with their everyday lives.
Mhm. Yes.
So, and I just incorporate that. So that frequency, I incorporate it into a composition because it could be like, I like to equate it to like having a smoothie. We know that if I drink a glass of apple juice, it's going to be good for me. But with the apple, if I maybe put in a smoothie of some carrots, some pineapple, cumin, turmeric, whatever else, spinach, and I'm going to get a lot more that's with that. And that's where I started seeing the benefits by, instead of just using the one frequency on hitting people with the tone, to put it into a composition so it's much more palatable for the listeners.
Yes. So this is a curiosity I have, and maybe since you're in the field, maybe you know a little bit about it, or maybe not. So I guess they've studied this from the other side too, like they've started analyzing frequencies to be able to, know what's going on with people.
And
Um,
analyzing, can you give me an example?
like voice frequencies. Like
Oh,
I have
yeah.
somebody send me an analysis of my voice and tell me what my personality characteristics are or what my health might be like. And it's not real detailed, but it, you know, it's probably as good as you know, going to your doctor, what they're going to tell you from, you know, an initial exam. So what do you know about that or think about that?
I haven't got into the aspect with an analyzing the voice with an individual and with their frequency, so to speak, with it. However, it wouldn't doesn't surprise me at all. When I was going through and learning the voice and studying with it, and also the technology with engineering, I was actually starting to work on some aspects what's called audio forensics. So you can think that our voice is unique to us in the way as a fingerprint is going to be unique to us. And in some cases, I was listening to a group of tapes to determine on like who was speaking and how they were speaking and identifying them. And it kind of goes deeper. I mean, it goes much deeper that's into that. So I haven't done much further than that for analyzing people. But one of the things I do is I do a lot of vocal toning for clients, because if we're going to look at changing our frequency and we have our own natural instrument that's right here inside of us, that's one of the greatest powers that we can heal ourselves, is just by using our own voice. And in particular, some of the clients I was working with, they didn't feel that they had a voice. In fact, when I would run some tests on them, you could see that one of their energetic properties was that their voice energy wasn't anywhere where it should be. And I would work with vocal toning with them, and I put a couple albums out on that to help others after seeing the results. And it was amazing that once they started to get their own voice, they could start to manifest stuff, change things, and be able to get their own power back, so to speak.
Yes, and they, the people that sent me information before, they sent an analysis they did on Robin Williams before he passed away. You know, everybody was, you know, wondering what had motivated his actions and his mental state, and, you know, what went on with him to cause him to take his life. And they showed how his voice and the frequencies in his voice kind of foretold the, you know, the decline that he had emotionally and mentally.
Wow.
And so I can't say that I totally really understood what they were talking about as you know, related to music and psychology, but I could see that there is, you know, just from listening to the clips that they gave, that there probably is a link there that you can, you know, find in people when they are going through some great trauma, or you know, like maybe even the cycles of depression when somebody
What a phenomenal tool,
yeah.
right? I mean, I had talked to somebody that they were a handwriting analysis expert, and so they could sit there and identify people's characteristics just in their handwriting. So I guess you could say, as being energetic beings that we are, the right tools we can be able to tell through handwriting, through our voice, and let's not forget visualization. And if we put that to work to help others out there, I mean, what a much better place this would be for, that just to get that help to the people at the right times.
Yeah, I mean, intuitively, people, you know things about people, but having those measurement systems like sound or writing or visual cues that that you can measure, you can apply science to, um, that gives it more credibility
Right.
than like I will know something about somebody, but I can't tell you why I know it.
So one of the devices that I kind of talking about tools that we use, and this is how I used it with my music, is that I knew how powerful it was, and a lot of people had a lot of kind words with being able to talk about how my music has helped them and changed them with the frequency, and we understand the concept. So one day I get a call here in my studio, and a TV production company has this doctor in from Russia, and he is a professor out of University of St. Petersburg and a pioneer in an area called biophotonic imaging. And he is familiar with my work and what I've been doing. So he and I get together, and he realizes I'm a techie. So I got to be able to play a lot with his equipment and use his equipment so that I could not only be able to tell people how I could probably help with this music is going to help them, or how it will be able to change it, but they're able to see it. So in the tool that he had invented through the biophotonic imaging, it was like the convergence of photonic and life sciences. And it was a technology, a generation of manipulation that is the detection of light using photons, quantum-like particles of the light, instead of electrons to transmit and store this information. And it was so amazing that I could test an individual, and they might forget to take the gum out of their mouth, and they'd be chewing on the gum on the right side of their mouth. And I could see that there was an energetic thing that was going on the right side of their mouth with the chewing of the gum,
Hmm.
and be able to capture it. And I took it even a little bit further, because we're still talking energy here, right? And as everything in the universe is energy, I started using it to see if I could capture video of crystals. I happen to like crystals. In fact, this guitar right here, I've got a cat's eye crystal in it. I
Uh,
believe it's magical. I build a lot of my guitars, and I started incorporating that into them. I digress. and but I actually got captured like Himalayan sea salt, a penny, a copper bracelet, obsidian, lots of other stuff. And there's a video that's out there. I think I even have it on my website that will show that energy radiating out of just those crystals or metals that they are. Um, so I did have the luxury to be able to play around with that, became pretty good friends with him, and tested people to see with that.
yeah, it is interesting. Things that we think are, we consider them not life really, like rocks and, um, wood, even trees. But I mean, they are living, but we don't consider them life forms.
Right. And
And it
that's
seems that they are emitting an energy that is part of our living environment. So,
interesting enough too. I'm glad that you said that, because that same bass guitar is made out of an ash, and it's a stronger, heavier wood. Works great for bass guitars. You could hit the note, and it's going to hold that with a deeper one. Some of the guitars down there have a maple, and so the wood if we're talking frequency, the wood on that is going to affect the frequency on its own. That's why I have so many guitars, because different woods are going to go for what I'm trying to achieve for that healing piece, to be able to hear it for soothing. Might need a little bit of tension to move a blockage out of somebody in the piece, and it can go back into releasing it so that we're pushing through it. So, I mean, that's absolutely everything is holding. Was it Tesla that said, to know the universe, we have to know, the energy?
Mm-hmm. So, with your albums and what you've created, you actually have a healing institute that you've created. Tell us a little bit about that.
Right. My wife and I created, she is a master hypnotherapist. And so it kind of started out that she would be, I might come into, say, for example, like writer's block. And she would say, well, Ted, let's sit down and let's go and do a session and see what can come out of the session for you, right? This is how it started. I'm kind of giving the beginning of it. And so I'm like, I go along with it. And next thing I know, have a past life is like as a fairy. And so this whole album concept comes in with Frequency of the Fairies. And I laugh because I'm an avid motorcycle rider. And if you can imagine, I'm riding through the mountains with some of my buds. And I'm like, they're like, what have you been working on, Ted? I'm like, I got this album that's coming out. It's called Frequency of the Fairies.
Yes.
And it's funny because then I come out with it and they're like, Ted, that's pretty good. I could see why you came out with that. So, then I do another one, which was Sovereignty. Do another one, Planetary, which is dealing with the frequent angelic sound healing. By the way, that's the album I want to give away to your listeners. So we kind of incorporated it, and she'd been teaching classes, and for those who wanted to kind of advance and learn more about it, say be a practitioner, we were able to build a company to support practitioners with it. So we formed what's called WellPoint Spiritual Hypnosis. And it's, it's a normal state of consciousness in which the individual is in a relaxed, altered brainwave state, which focuses their attention and awareness on a specific directive that they may have constantly chosen, before the session begins. Thereby, it's activating the subconscious and the superconscious mind. With WellPoint hypnosis, we're assisting others to help solve a mystery of their life. For me, it was going back and finding, maybe where I was for writing an album, and connecting to the desires and the intentions of the soul and creating this lasting change. So how I got involved with it was a little bit working with vocal toning, teaching people how to help change the frequency with that, and my music as well, because there was a lot of hypnotherapists that would talk about that they would have clients that had a hard time getting into a relaxed state. And so I created a line of music being of the delta frequencies. And the other thing too is that my music is so unique and so kind of new, with creating a new genre, that say somebody is used to classical music to relax them, to put them in a deeper state of well-being before they go into this hypnotherapy. Well, somebody might have had a traumatic event with that. And so now all of a sudden they hear that, the brain waves are firing off, and they're not going to be able to go under and achieve what they want to. So I did a specific line that is of the Delta series with these brain waves so that we could use that in putting people under. And we've had a phenomenal success ratio with people being able to go deep into hypnosis. And so that's where I've been kind of implemented into it and helping out with that. Knowing the importance of the music, knowing the importance of what the hypnosis is doing, is just turbocharging the whole effect right there for the listeners.
Okay. So what is the delta frequency?
So the delta frequencies is basically going to be in like 4 hertz of less. And it's a deep, dreamless sleep where the body can heal and restore itself. In this state, the body can start to release anti-aging hormones, which is including melatonin, HGH, DH, what is it, DHEA. It's the place of the deepest relaxation, the deepest healing, the deepest spiritual connection, and the connection with the subconscious mind. Again, we're going in and dealing with the subconscious mind. And it's considered to be the gateway to the unconscious mind and the collective unconsciousness. So we're bringing access to the universal psyche of the mind. And that's pairing that up with whatever that frequency that was. I'd have to go in with it might be like a 3.8 hertz that's going to match that key signature. And that's kind of the key ingredient with all of that. Which now you're dealing with binaural beats.
Well, I can definitely tell you, being a hypnotherapist, that there are a lot of people that resist and are hard to get to relax enough to go into hypnosis. And I can see how music would be disarming.
the ego can't resist it.
Yes. So yeah.
And it's working with brainwave entrainment, right? If we're going to go along with the brain and talking the psyche on that was like basically billions of neurons are firing throughout our brain, and they're communicating with one another through electricity. And these electrical pulses are actually rhythms in nature, just like any other rhythmic system. So these rhythms are eliciting the brain frequency, what's called the follow and response, encouraging the brain waves to align to this frequency of a given beat or a frequency. Interesting note, a lot of people don't realize this is much, much, much older than us. This dates all the way back to ancient Greece, I believe with Ptolemy, some like 2,000 years ago. And so I'm trying to align us to our soul signature or our higher self, which was what we call it. A lot of people have different names for that. And it's allow us to break free and eradicate the negative energies, which might be affecting us energetically. You go to work, the 440 frequency I was talking about. You hit that, your body's so used to that dissonant frequency, you do something wrong at work and you're getting yelled at, that sticks to you. And it's like getting rid of that, shedding that, and bringing you back to your own key signature to move forward again, recharge, recalibrate. We're oscillatory beings in constant motion. And so it's on a synthesizer, it's like resetting that oscillator if it's kind of gotten out of control and a little wonky from the rest of it.
Yes, I can see. Recalibrating, like we're a machine and we've gotten out of whack, and recalibrating. Yeah, it works. So what what has been the biggest thing or the biggest surprise that you've experienced in doing this work?
That's a great question. There's so many. I'm trying to think of one, and I actually have one here. I received a social media direct message from an individual, and back in July 2nd, he was hit in the ER with 3rd stage kidney. And I'll actually just read it. He says, "The doctors did not expect me to make it to the 4th. I had my laptop and the doctors worked at me, and I also had your music on nonstop repeat for a whole day as my kidneys slowly returned from a level 9 to a 3.2. Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't know what that means. I'm just going to assume that that's probably pretty good by what he's said in this and he's followed up with me on. He says, eventually, I got down to a 1.4. So he's moved from a level 9 to a 1.4, which is safe and normal for him in his condition. Because of this, he did not or will not need dialysis. and that his music really helped heal. And with the will to live, he pulled through. And he kind of goes on to thank some stuff on it. But that was really pretty touching how that had happened with hearing that. Um, I'm was really big into sports. I've coached football for a couple of years. I used to play semi-pro football, and some of the teachers at one of the local middle schools, had asked me about my music, and I'd given them a couple of the CDs, right? What are those anymore? But I gave them a couple of CDs, and I guess one of the individuals had suffered from a concussion on a weekend football game, and they had to modify his work and brain activity with what was happening with it, his mind. And she said she put the music on, and that the headache that he had, he didn't return for 2 days because he had to be at home with no stimulation or activity going on. But by the second, probably would be a Tuesday, he came back in and had a headache and mentioned it. She put it on. His headache was gone.
Mm,
So
great.
it worked with the concussion individual. We've had post-traumatic people, firefighter that was down in 9/11 and 15 days at ground zero, and he had trouble sleeping at night. So it's great for sleep. A lot of people, when I first meet them and they realize I'm a musician and producer, they're like, well, what kind of music do you do? And I'm kind of like, sleepy time, because that's the best way to be able to incorporate them, because it does. You listen to it, and it's great for yoga. In this individual's case, from 9/11, he couldn't sleep at night. It just kept replaying in his head some of the probably the horrific events that he had gone through, and he had called into a show, and I sent him some MP3s, and he listened to them, and he said just changed his life around. He no longer had to do medication. Now, I'm not advocating telling people go off medications. I'm not in the medical field, so I don't say any of that stuff. But this is another alternative way to help people. I myself had I love going up in the mountains, especially this time of year. I live here in Colorado. The Rocky Mountains is my home. I'll backpack in there for a couple of days and sleep on the ground. I tore my MCL and went into the doctor. And the doctor was basically like, well, there's only one way you're going to have to go and get surgery on this. And I said, give me 6 weeks. And I clearly took care of myself. I'm in the frequencies all day long. This is all that I do. I'm so blessed that I get to do that. And I got to go climb with my kids a couple months later, a 14,000 foot mountain here in the Rockies, going through waist deep of snow. So every day is something new and shocking that I love getting responses back from people and hearing. And in fact, with the listeners that are listening to this, they can get my Amazon bestseller, Angelic Sound Healing, for free. It's a digital download, so that they can hear themselves understand it. It's like one thing to come on and tell people this, but this has been one of my best-selling albums. It'll continue to be one of my best-selling albums. But you can download it for free off of my website by going to tedwinslow.com, going and select Angelic Sound Healing with binaural beats. Then you're going to check out, and upon checking out, it'll ask for a coupon code. For the show, we put in radio, RADIO. It will zero out the balance, and then you can proceed on to download it. Use a computer. I don't think phones and tablets are not that good for downloading. You can stream from them great, but I don't think downloading it's going to work too good. So it'll drop into your Windows Media Player, drop into your iTunes, and my website, just before one, my website does get a lot of hits. So if the whole album doesn't download, you can repeat it and just put it in again, and it'll go ahead and download it for you. It'll ask a couple questions because we have to keep this day and age, keep the robots out of there, if you know what I'm saying.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Well, that's great. That gives people a chance to, try it out and, you know, have an opinion for themselves. But I like that you said that you're not a doctor, but you know, music doesn't have any side effects. So, I mean, not any negative side effects that are going to possibly harm or kill you.
No,
So, you know,
no.
you can try it without worrying about that.
You know, and that's kind of the beauty with my music that's incorporating binaural beats, because if we talk about a few of the great aspects of it, is that the state of consciousness ranges are going to include relaxation, meditation, reducing your stress, management of pain levels. It's going to improve your sleep. It's going to improve your state of well-being. Your memory is going to be enhanced. I mean, who doesn't want a better memory with retention? Enhanced intuition, um, creativity. So it goes on and on. And most individuals rely on their subconscious programs and how they deal, or the lack of dealing with everyday world environments, day after day after day, with the same results, the 440, so to speak. And this, stumbling upon it by trial and error and keep plugging away, that through binaural beats, we're reprogramming both sides of our hemispheres of our brain to wake up, to become
Yeah.
conscious, experience a new variety of conscious states or awareness.
Yes, I think there's a lot to learn in this field, and I think it's going to become a bigger part of our science and technology uh,
Right.
as related to health and people. Um, you know, we've always known that we like music, and certain kinds of music make us feel certain ways, but you know, not too many people have, you know, realized the science of what it really does.
Yeah, yeah. When I was playing football, we'd be in the locker room. You'd be hearing this heavy. Of course you want to go out. You're just like, take it on. So my music's not going to be locker room, and probably those motorcycle riders on the road aren't going to be listening to it. But you get home, and it's going to totally change it. Get away from all of that. At work, relax your pets, children. Um, Massage therapists have been using it. Uh, when you're having energy work done, know a lot of people, especially those football players, that they don't know how to turn the game off when they get off the field in the evening, and so use it when you go to sleep. We still need to come down. That's what I saw, because I was one of those people. I could never come down when I was playing a lot of live shows, and I'd get off and I was just constantly way up here, just constantly going. And it's like, how do you relax? How do you get your body back to that key signature? We have to energize, not in that sense like a cup of coffee or caffeine or adrenaline, but energize just through the natural ability of meditation. And
Yes, that is one of the biggest things in mental health and healing, is people transitioning from different levels of energy, you know, like the
yeah.
corporate executive that's going out and they have to be at a certain level of performance. And then, you know, they come home and they can't adjust to, you know, being with their family or sleeping or things that aren't at that energy level that they need to be at during the day. Or, like you said, football players, or just anything really that we're doing in our life. Um, we do need to be able to transition between states.
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
and our bodies do have control to allow us to do that. But um,
A lot of people have a hard time finding how to get them, how
Yes,
to get their
and
body to do
things
that.
like music or hypnosis or music and hypnosis
Yeah.
can really help in that process.
You know, like we were talking with tools earlier in the voice, these are all tools that we kind of have at our fingertips that are easy to get to us. On this journey, seeing how just the music industry is evolved, it makes it easier than ever for now. I had one of the companies, Spotify, is I'm featured on over I checked this weekend, over 6,000 playlists on Spotify. So what that basically means is that it's no longer putting a CD in the CD player and having it. Red Book standard for CDs goes typically 50, 65 minutes. And then you can keep it on repeat. But what if, like, these Delta songs that I'm doing, I've composed them for an hour. So it goes through for an hour. And I thought, how great would that be to go into another Delta song for another hour, and then do another Delta song for another hour, and another Delta song for another hour. Or people want to listen to Frequency of the Fairies. Just to bring that, because and then they want to go into angelic sound healing. You get to experience, because in angelic sound healing is all the frequency of the angels. So I took, funny story, I did a solo motorcycle ride. All my buddies decided not to follow me on this, here from Colorado and up to Alaska. And so we had like 20 guys. We were going to go. It was going to be a motorcycle trip of a lifetime. And then 5 guys fall off. 4 guys fall off. Another guy falls off. 3 guys fall off. 2 guys fall off. 3 more, 1 more. I'm left by myself. And I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do this. And I got on my motorcycle, I left, and I got up somewhere. It was up in Canada. I think it might have been Calgary. And I'm going through Calgary beautifully. And I got stuck in rush hour traffic in the evening. And there was a bumper sticker in front of me that was like, "I fly with angels." And I'm like, man, no kidding. That's what that became the theme for that trip. And I'm like, angelic, 111. Then you look at the odometer and I'd see 333. There's a message. I'd look at my watch and be like 111. I don't wear a watch, but a clock. And I'm like, here are all these messages, and that's what led to the creation of that album. So I had to put those angelic frequencies that were out there, all unique to their own key signatures and characteristics.
Okay. So those buddies of yours, did you tell them that they had to listen to the fairy music if they went? Is that why?
I can't prescribe, but you need to listen to Frequency of the Fairies on this trip. No, it was funny because they kind of come up to me and, they'd say, hey, I listen to Beard Down to Here. I listen to Freya. That's another album. And I get it. I actually get it. So it was kind of funny how they kind of come up to me individually and then they'd want to talk to me and, what is that? So.
Well, it is interesting. We tend to, categorize and stereotype people based on, okay, bikers are big, tough guys that, all they are into is things with motors. And that just isn't true. Not true of bikers and not true of people in general. A lot of times what I have found about bikers in particular is that they're very much in tune with nature because they're kind of out in nature when they're riding. And people that are in tune with nature are
Yeah. You're going through Wyoming and you've got a wind that's knocking you over to 45 degree. You've got a certain element of a consciousness when you're on 2 wheels. And your surroundings, they really open up. You start to look at anything and everything that's like is a possibility. And that's part of one of the reasons why I got into it, is because it was, for me, it was extremely relaxing, and that I was just my focus was right there going along the trail. Another funny aspect is that I fortunate to meet with another group of some producers. And so every so often we meet in this great big warehouse, and some of these guys have some Grammys to their names. Have been on some Grammy albums. And it's funny because I'm, with my genre of music, is so much different than where they come from with their composition and with their music. And one of the there's a couple of producers that are in there with with like death metal, and I've met some of those band members. They can be downright, somewhat scary, but I'll tell you, nicest beings it just blew me away. Here I had a judgment that was worth of it, as they had like a judgment kind of looking at me. And it was great to get down and start talking about what makes up that genre of music, what makes up my genre of music. This is what's incorporating in it, and everybody kind of listening to. When you've got some guy that's producer of this death metal band that's known of it, and he's listening to your album going, wow, I never thought, that's amazing what I'm feeling with this.
Mm-hmm.
So that was I didn't expect that outcome from that genre.
Yeah,
But
yeah, we all do have those biases, and until you confront them and find out that there's um, that it wasn't the way you thought it was, and every person probably learned something different, but it is kind of eye-opening that.
yeah, yeah. The one guy would just be sitting there reading a novel, and he all leathered out with spikes and everything. Then he puts on his reading glasses, and I'm like, whoa, I didn't expect that at all. I was like,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I guess the one thing that I, take away from this is that we have a lot to learn about this field, and it's fascinating. So I have one final question for you. We're just about out of time, and if you could leave the listeners with one thought from today's show, what would you want that to be?
oh, well, that's easy. Have an open mind and explore everything that's around you. Always keeping a high level of consciousness to even some of the smallest things, because it's some of those small things can have the most meaningful impact on you in your life. Don't get stuck in the same thing, like the 440 that I had for a lifetime, and branch out. Try something new. If it doesn't work, you only learn that much more from it. And then that feels right, you just got to experience something new. So
Okay, well, you gave a little bit of info earlier, but if listeners wanted to get in touch with you or try out your album, can you give the info on contact info?
absolutely. So my website is tedwinslow.com, and I've got the album that's on there, Angelic Sound Healing. And download that. You just go and select Angelic Sound Healing binaural beats. You'll check out, don't put in any credit card information. If you do, go back a step, and you'll put in a coupon code of radio. I'm on Twitter at Ted Winslow. I've been kind of doing some stuff on Instagram, and I've got a solfeggio frequency sound healing page on Facebook. So we'll put a lot of information up there. Subscribe to our newsletter. We have lots of my newsletter. We've got lots of giveaways and good stuff that's coming up with it. And I've got the videos up there as well, so that you can see testing before, after, some vocal toning ones. I done tests for water. I've actually tested water and frequency and how it affects that. Because you think our chemical makeup is about 75% water. Our brains are, I think, 90% Somebody's going to tweet me, go, Ted, you don't understand the science of the body. I play guitar. Sorry. And that's the best way to get in touch with me.
And also like tedwinslow.com.
tedwinslow.com. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for being on today and talking about this. As I said, it's actually a very fascinating subject, and I think it's going to be a bigger part of our, our healing and, just our lives as we go forward. So we have another great show planned for next week. Next week, my guest is going to be Molly Clipp, and Molly Clipp is the founder of Carefree Beauty, but she's been in the beauty and cosmetic industry for over 25 years. She worked with Alouette for a long time, and she's written a book. But now, for the last 5 years, she's been doing permanent makeup. And so we're going to talk about that. And that it's not just about, making people look pretty. A lot of the work that she does is with people that have, for one reason or another, lost aspects of their appearance, like people that have cancer and they lose their hair or other different diseases. And Molly can give them back their confidence. So we're going to talk to her about that and about why she's passionate and loves her job. So tune in next week, and that'll be the 27th of October at 3 p.m. And so thank you again, Ted, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you
Bye
so
for
much
now.
for having me on.
Thank you for listening to Soul Fire Wisdom with Kate Olson. We hope you enjoyed the show. If we made you laugh, brightened your day, or sparked a new thought, we have succeeded in our mission. Join us next time when we'll share more secrets and truths and all the magic of transformation that is the journey to Soul Fire Wisdom. Always remember, be fierce in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire.